Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Covering both sides of the big issues with the analysis you trust on News Radio 1040 WHO.
We try and bring you as many scams as we can so that you are well armed to deal with them. And now, rental and housing scams are going up right alongside the housing crisis. So landlords are doing this. There's all kinds of stuff that's happening. Scott Baradell. Let me get there we go, bring him on the air, is a spokesperson for a company called Rently. Scott, first of all, welcome back. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Last time we talked to you, we were about people loving to share misinformation. This time we're talking to you all about housing scams. What's going on?
Well, it's become a big problem because we've got a tight housing market. Demand for rental homes is sky high due to housing shortages, rising home prices, and so forth. And through vehicles like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, it's very easy for people who use those kind of sites to find a place to live to get scammed.
Okay, so tell me what forms the scams take.
I'll give you an example. I just saw this in the news the other day. It happened in Florida. There's a couple that they were living in one of their parents' home. They're finally had saved up the money to go make a deposit and get their own place. So it was a big deal for them. They went to Craigslist and they found something that looked great. They called the guy who had placed the listing. It had great pictures of the property and so forth. It was a rental house, and he gave them the lockbox number. He said, I can't meet you guys there, but here's the lockbox number. And they went there, and the number worked. They went inside. He said, this is great. He sent them a quote-unquote contract. They signed it, and they ran.
I'm sorry, you just broke up. They sent them a contract. They signed it, and
they're like, oh, we've got our home. They paid him $3,000. They paid the guy $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the person who had scammed the couple and taken their $3,000, all they had done is they had gone on the tour of the home themselves and had stole the lockbox number,
mm-hmm.
and then gave that number, and getting the correct lockbox number was enough for this couple to think, oh, this must be legit.
Right.
Even though, and so that's the kind of thing that is happening all the time. According to Better Business Bureau, 5 million people this has happened to.
Right. I mean, that with the lockbox number, that's kind of a crucial part of it, right? Because I get that. I used to be a real estate broker in Florida. I get that, although I would never give a lockbox number out myself. So if you get a lockbox number, you look around the house and you're like, yeah, wow, this is it for us. We'll hand over the cash, we'll sign on the dotted, and this will be our home. What else should they have done?
Well, for starters, a lockbox number is not enough. If the people that are renting the place have decent technology, Rently, for example, every code that's given out for a self-tour is a one-time code. It can only be used once. And there's a lot of technology now that prevents this kind of thing from happening. It's like looking over someone's shoulder when they punch in their code on the ATM. You've got to be more sophisticated than that. So what you can do is you can either insist on proof of identity. You can insist on the person being there and providing validation of their credentials, or you can use technology if you want the convenience of a self-tour like they had. You can use technology that prevents scams like that from happening.
I just feel most Americans, right? Most Americans, you're giving me a lockbox number. It works. I get in the house. I tour the house. And it all seemed that's enough for it to appear to be legitimate. So I don't know that there's enough information out there, frankly, to protect people. Doesn't the industry have a responsibility here to say, hey, if you get a lockbox number, that is not enough? Shouldn't they be advertising, spending money to get that message out there? Because I just think that's a great scam. It really is. If you give somebody a lockbox number, that lockbox number works, you think you're dealing with the real deal.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think enhancing public education is a critical part of what needs to happen. Tutorials, scam alerts, guides. I mean, if you want to be safe, they're preying on the fact that people are desperate. They're afraid if I don't act quickly, someone else is going to get this property, and I'm not going to get this great deal. And you've got to realize that, that's where the danger is taking that risk of, I better do this now. There are, in the case of Rently, Rently's platform has listings. So if you go to Rently listings, you look that up, there's a ton of listings in there. All of them have these kind of secure.
Okay, and there are plenty of companies out there. You're right. There are plenty of companies out there that do that. You are not wrong. But equally, there are plenty of individuals who rent directly. When I first moved to Iowa, I rented off an individual, not through a company at all. I rented off one man. We have to make sure everybody understands what the scams are, and that's the responsibility of the industry. I don't think the industry is doing enough. That's all I'm really saying.
Right. Well, I think you're right, and I think you could also argue that platforms like Facebook and Craigslist aren't doing enough either. I mean, it's not like there's a lot of checking or security that goes into what's listed in Facebook Marketplace. I mean, when this survey that was done of people who had rented a property in the last couple of years, it showed that 88% of the people that had been scammed had been through Facebook. And so, Meta is already in the hot water in a lot of other areas, as we've learned in the last couple of days with the statement from Mark Zuckerberg. But that's another one where they could be doing a little bit more self-policing than they have been.
All right, Scott. Well, thank you very much. Always good talking to you. Beware out there, ladies and gentlemen. There's all kinds of people that are looking to separate you from your hard-earned cash.
That's for sure.
So constantly be aware that that's any time you have to part with money, just like triple think it. That's all I'm saying. Scott, thanks very much. You take care, my friend, and we will talk to you soon. All right.